Okay, welcome to a new episode of Nate's MMA Corner. I'm Nate, and if you watch my show, you're in my corner. Today's episode's a post-fight show for UFC 203, Miocic versus Overeem for the UFC Heavyweight Championship of the World. And man, this was a battle of the ages. And in the co-main event, you had Fabricio Werdum versus Travis Browne in a top contendership match in the heavyweight division as well. So yeah, this is a post-fight show, the main card. Let's get started. The main event was Stipe Miocic, the UFC Heavyweight Champion of the World, defending the title against Alistair the Reem Overeem, one of the greatest kickboxers turned MMA fighters ever on the face of the planet. And former Strikeforce champion, K1 champion, interim Dream Heavyweight champion. So the guy's had titles all over the place. And this was pretty much the last belt he needed to put the icing on the cake on his UFC career. And if you saw my pre-fight show, I picked Overeem to win this second round knockout, and boy was I surprised, because he dropped Stipe once or twice in the first round, and then goes in for a guillotine choke. And then Stipe has pretty decent grappling skills, was able to get out. And then he ends up getting top position on Overeem eventually, and then he pounds him out en route to first round TKO or KO punches victory. And yeah, it was 4 minutes and 27 seconds into the first round. So yeah, Stipe defended the UFC heavyweight title, and so now he's up there in terms of some of the greatest heavyweight fighters of all time. Which there's essentially 5 guys have defended the heavyweight belt twice, and then you got another batch that's defended it once, and then the rest have had 0 title defenses. So one more and he's up there in the top 6, and then another one he's in a class on his own. So he's on his way, and I think if he fights Kane, he could win that fight. If he fights Werdum, he could win that fight. So it's possible he'll get that second title defense. Third, unsure, it's too soon to say. But yeah, Stipe defended the heavyweight championship of the world, blew me away. I was not expecting it to end like that. I thought if Stipe was going to get a knockout, it'd be in the stand-up using his boxing, as Stipe is a Golden Gloves boxing champ. So Stipe and Overeem stole the show, and they got Fight of the Night award too, both fighters. And then in the heavyweight, also in the heavyweight division, also on the main card, we had Fabricio Werdum versus Travis Browne. And wow, you know, this fight, yeah, I picked Fabricio Werdum on my pre-fight show, but I was not expecting to go all 3 rounds, and it was just a crazy fight. I mean, Fabricio Werdum threw some really awkward, kicks. I mean, he did that like jump kick in the very beginning of the first round, and then it stunned Travis Browne. You see Travis Browne just push back out of nowhere. Then at the end of the fight, he gets into a scuffle with Edmund Taverdian, Travis Browne's striking coach, also striking coach for Ronda Rousey throughout her career. And yeah, this was just a crazy fight. Fabricio Werdum outlanded Travis Browne by a landslide throughout this fight, and this was mostly a stand-up fight. Very little else happened, and I was surprised that Travis Browne was still standing after that second round, because he just took so many shots. And yeah, Fabricio Werdum, it may not have looked like it to a lot of people, but he was actually going for the finish. I mean, he was outlanding Travis Browne by a landslide. I'd have to double check the stats on exactly what the exact numbers were, but it was pretty lopsided. And yeah, it's like any one of those shots could have possibly knocked out Travis Browne, but he was just still standing. And when it went to a decision, I was like, oh boy, this is what I'm afraid of, is that people say, well, see, he got a decision over Travis Browne, whereas Kane got a first round knockout over Travis Browne, so we'll give Kane the title shot. And I want to see the rematch with Fabricio Werdum and Stipe more than a Kane-Stipe fight for the belt. So it's a coin toss on who's going to get the title shot now against Stipe. But this was an interesting match. It wasn't the most exciting fight. It wasn't the most boring fight. It was just one of those scratch your head, like just craziness. And then the whole thing with Travis Brown's hand, you know, at the time we were unsure of what was going on with his hand, but look it up. They explain it. It's a long story. Yeah, so Fabrice Verdum wins unanimous decision. Then in the welterweight division, also on the main card, we had CM Punk making his UFC debut against Mickey Gall, who's having his second fight in the UFC after coming off a big win over Mike Jackson to get the shot at CM Punk on this pay-per-view card. And Mickey Gall, 2 minutes 14 seconds, sinks in, submission, rear naked choke, en route to his victory. Yeah, Mickey Gall just immediately went for that takedown from the first few seconds of the first round. Took down CM Punk. Yeah, CM Punk kind of was just throwing wild strikes, trying to get a knockout, going for a finish, because I think he wanted to just end the fight as quickly as he could, but Mickey Gall caught wind of it quick and was like, you know what, if I just take this guy down, I'll work his submission before you know it, and so that's exactly what he did. And it was great technical jiu-jitsu skills of Mickey Gall, who's a legit brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Mickey Gall looks like he's fighting Sage Northcutt next. I think that fight, ooh, it's a big name fight. I get it, it'll make some money, but I gotta go with Sage Northcutt on this one. Sorry, Mickey. So, assuming it gets to Mickey Gall fighting Sage Northcutt, like no one gets injured and there's no change-ups, I'm picking Sage Northcutt to win that fight. But Mickey Gall does have a career in the UFC, I think. I mean, he looked impressive over Mike Jackson, first round submission win, and then impressive win over CM Punk, first round submission win. And these were two guys that, in theory, if he's a well-versed, well-talented, young UFC prospect fighter, he should, in theory, be able to walk through both of those guys, which he did. So I think that you know, Mickey Gall will have a career in the UFC and win a bunch of fights. Hard to say if he's going to be a title challenger. It's too soon to say, but he's going to be up there in the UFC veterans book, so to speak. So yeah, Mickey Gall, submission, rear naked choke. Then in the bantamweight division, we had Jimmy Rivera versus Uriah Faber. Uriah Faber came into this fight ranked number 2, and then I believe Jimmy Rivera is ranked like number 12, depending on which rankings you look at. And me and a lot of people picked Jimmy Rivera to win this fight, believe it or not, because people in the know that Jimmy Rivera is a top guy to look out for. He's a killer. He can wrestle, he can grapple, he can strike, he's fast, he still has years left in his career, not a lot of damage, and he just walked right through Uriah Faber. And he won decision unanimous 30-27, and this was pretty lopsided on striking. Jimmy Rivera just used great footwork, great takedown defense. You could see like there was moments where Uriah Faber was just like, you know what, forget the striking, I'm just going to push for the takedowns, and he didn't get them. Jimmy Rivera was smart, and he knew what exactly to do to stop the takedowns, you know, bit for bit. So Jimmy Rivera, I mean, he skyrockets through the rankings. We'll probably see, you know, down the line, you know, what's next for him. But yeah, he's definitely a guy to look out for. Maybe 2 or 3 fights away from a title shot even at this rate. So yeah, Jimmy Rivera wins unanimous decision over the, I guess you could say, formerly number 2 ranked Uriah Faber. Yeah, then to kick off the main card, in the women's strawweight division, we had Jessica Andrade versus Joanne Calderwood. Now this fight, just wow. I thought this was going to go to a decision. It would be sort of back and forth, and there might be some controversy, or it would be one of those things where, you know, it was a split decision, or, you know, a photo finish of some sort, because I thought Joanne Calderwood, you know, she would defend submissions, you know, go back to standing, you know, try to keep it a stand-up war as much as possible, and then you're going to see basically Jessica Andrade just constantly go for takedowns, not wanting to strike, and just go for submissions. But instead, it was Jessica Andrade gets the takedown, goes for the submission, gets it, submission guillotine, round 1, 4 minutes 38 seconds in the first round. great, impressive finish for Jessica Andrade, and I say she's right up there in title mix, maybe 1 or 2 fights away from title at this point. Because Joanne Calderwood was ranked in the middle of the top 10, and Jessica Andrade was somewhere in the mix of that top 10 as well. So she kind of moves up a notch or two, and in my opinion would be in that top 5, but rankings can vary. Yeah, so this was just a great pay-per-view main card altogether, top to bottom. If you haven't seen it yet, watch a replay. And yeah, this the prelims, you know, I think Jessica Ai got robbed in the decision. I think she won the first 2 rounds against Bethe Correia. And then Drew Dober had a great knockout over Jason Gonzalez, KO punches, round 1 on prelims, to kick off the Fox Sports 1 prelims. So that wraps up my post-fight show for UFC 203 Miocic vs. Overeem. Stay tuned for my pre-fight show in the coming days for Poirier vs. Johnson UFC Fight Night. And yeah, that should be a good card. You got some good veterans on that card. Sam Cecilia, one of my favorite fighters, fighting on that card. So anyways, that wraps up the show, and until then, see ya.